What is going on? Welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to talk to you about Lucid, give you a quick overview of some of the data points, what really moved it today, and go over everything else you need to know. But first, make sure to hit that thumbs up. And with that, let's get right to it. So Lucid did go up 2.97%, $2.45 the high, $2.27 the low, and a lot of volume. So 111.23 million shares being traded, 81.9 is the average. Majority of the volume did come from algorithmic trading today. And I think that stems from the Fireside chat today. So I'm going to go over that in a second. But these are all the transactions that did occur on the secondary market above $100,000. So clearly, as you can kind of see, that does not make up that 111 or whatever it was million shares being traded. So this is why, like I said, a lot of it came from algorithms. But beside the point, one thing that really did boost the market higher today was CPI. So coming in line with expectations, both on a month over month and also year over year basis. So that did solidify, ultimately a 25 basis point cut for the December 18th meeting. So right now a 98.6% likelihood of that occurring. So that is really boosting just growth stocks because consumers' buying power is going to increase. So that's going to be a very good domino effect across the board. So in theory, EV sector is very sensitive to interest rates. So a 25 basis point cut could really propel that higher. And in the past, especially as countries were raising rates, Canada always did theirs first and then the States followed. Usually they kind of went hand in hand, and today Canada did cut 50 basis points. So not saying for the December 18th that is going to occur, but possibly 25 for there, and then on the January 29th, maybe another 25. Currently there is a 19% likelihood of that occurring. So again, that might come to fruition, but ultimately, one thing that really probably what kickstarted the algos to really buy Lucid today was the Fireside chat. So NASDAQ 51st Investor Conference, I think it was held by, I think it was Morgan Stanley or something like that, or Morgan Stanley was participating or whatever. So I did post this already earlier in the day. Gagan spoke for roughly 30 minutes-ish, and there's a lot of good things. So I think he was more focused on cost cutting and all that. But whoever the interviewer was did pose a lot of good questions. And so Gagan, without saying the actual information, he just said, I can't disclose that. And of course, we already do know, coming from a business standpoint, whenever someone says that, something's in the works. So he did allude to a lot of partnerships. And I know that's what Lucid investors love to do, is to speculate based on just what things are said and whatever else. But when asked about kind of taking over and kind of expanding in Europe, what is their plan? They said that they want to have at least 1 or 2 studios in, for instance, a country, and then have somehow like a partnership. So they have something, or I think they actually said they are working on something. So most likely a partnership where Lucid could kind of service their vehicles similar to Polestar and Volkswagen, that kind of scenario. So I think there might be something coming from Europe. So most likely it'd be, I would estimate, a German manufacturer of sorts. But there was also a lot of other partnership kind of Easter eggs, if that makes sense. One was about the solid state battery, and I believe there was one other one as well. So let me know if I'm missing anything, but I think ultimately that was some of the strong takeaways from the Fireside chat, aside from just cost cutting and profitability coming from midsize. And I think they stated roughly around 300,000 is kind of that pivot point. I think they mentioned 300,000 to 400,000. That's the pivot point to profitability once they are able to do that on a yearly basis. So I think that information was very good. Some people don't really like it. Some people were saying that it's fluff, but I think it's kind of definitely the most information that we've received from a, I guess, output standpoint, other than Peter just saying that they want to do 1 million, which is kind of, I think, fugazi for the most part. I think Gagan was a little bit more realistic today, so I really liked it. What's your viewpoint on that? Aside from that though, shorts did increase 1.32 million shares today. 22.7% of the free float is being shorted, works out to be 270.75 million shares overall are being shorted. Cost to borrow average as well is 1.22%, and then utilization is 84.3. So in my opinion, shorts are still very much active with Lucid, but if maybe one of these partnerships is announced either in the first half of 2025 or something like that, that could really deter shorts and maybe get it back to around that 15 to 18% range, at least in the short term. So let me know your viewpoint on that. And do you think, I know Peter just mentioned it, I think it was like at the Deutsch conference like a month and a half ago, that they are not going to be pursuing like a lower price vehicle. But with Tesla recently announcing their $25,000 vehicle, I think it was a Model Q, if I remember correctly, do you think that is going to reinvigorate maybe Peter's competitive side against Elon and have them do a lower price vehicle? Do you think that's going to come out? I think that's good if so, because I know Peter did state by 2030-ish, they're going to be doing robo-taxis. So I think that would all go hand in hand. So yeah, I think there's a lot of opportunity for Lucid down the line in the next several years. So Lucid technology should be able to drive it higher. But aside from that, 899,000 in calls, 337,000 in puts, so rather low with the dollar value getting into Lucid through options. But 43% of all the options being done today were optimistic in nature, and you can kind of just see based on this right here. So there was 1.2 million in premiums today, 2.7 yesterday, 5.9, 8.4. So it is diminishing, but it's still better than what it was on, it looks like December 4th and 5th. So it is what it is ultimately. But one thing to note though is you're seeing more and more optimism. So as of right now, it looks as though $2.50 is somewhat the bottom. So that's what the bulls are kind of calling, and they're seeing $3 and even for looks like March, so Q1, for it to be above 350. So that's kind of a lot more optimism. Looking at the bears though, not much puts in all honesty. There's a consensus for it to be roughly sub 250, but in my opinion, that does equate to a lot more upside rather than anything. But as of this, moving over to the technicals, with it closing at $2.43, it is trading between these 2 points. So the R3 and this R2, so $2.50 is going to be that next strong kind of resistance slash target point. And then $2.40, $2.34, and then $2.23 are going to be the following support levels. So kind of very volatile. I think in general, like I said, algorithms were really propelling Lucid higher. And as well at the same time, especially with CPI, that was also one big driving factor that pushed the market higher. NASDAQ did hit a all-time high. Tesla did as well, and it was kind of iconic. At one moment, I think some got it at 420.69, so kind of epic stuff. Hopefully Lucid does get there one day. But moving over to the actual chart itself, so you can kind of see just generally it's still in limbo. And so the ALMA right now, which is at $2.41, that is a kind of a short-term pivot. And so with it closing at 242, ultimately it's somewhat optimistic, but you do need 2 days to really confirm a trend. So definitely tomorrow is going to be a very big one. PPI is coming out tomorrow on a side note, but the 50-day moving average is $2.51, so kind of mimicking that next strong resistance point. So I think in general, if it is able to really push higher above that 250 mark, then this is where you could see a nice, very nice push higher even further to roughly around that $3 range, at least in the short term. And then dependent on either macro catalysts or potentially if Lucid has some other partnership or something like that, then it'll be able to stay there and big money will be able to rally and kind of push it higher. So long story short, a lot of good data is coming out from a larger standpoint, and I think Lucid's finally able to piggyback off of a lot of that. Shorts though are still lingering, so first sign of weakness, you'll have shorts a lot of just kind of trying to suppress it as what they typically do, but hopefully Peter does have some stuff planned. One thing that I did find interesting, especially with this being based in, or this taking part in London. It's kind of interesting the fact that Peter, which I assume he is English, that he didn't actually participate in this himself. So maybe he might be doing some other activity, marketing activity behind the scenes. There's been quite a few posts as well on social media. Definitely shows whoever has been hired, there's some change that has happened. So the marketing has really been stepped up. So I think it's now 2.0. So I think that's a good thing. Hopefully there's a lot more things lined up, like I said, involving Peter for interviews, fireside chats, and many more things. So don't forget to hit that thumbs up and subscribe. Give yourself a shout out if you did buy, if you sold, or whatever else. And then one final thing, pop over to my Patreon, link in the description below and also the comments. I've been giving buy signals on stocks, options, crypto. Many of them have been absolute bangers just in that 1 month since I've launched the Patreon. So that's in the description below as well. So with all that said, appreciate all of you watching.